Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have a very interesting upload full of terrifying encounters, and we are going to sit down and break down a video slash photo. Before we jump into all that though, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and the channel membership are in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost you a cent. Click that like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things, they really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. And folks, they definitely matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into today's upload, shall we? Briefly, before we get into today's upload, I would like to thank everyone who kept my dad in their prayers. Yesterday, my dad had a 5.5-hour vascular surgery. It would be his fourth in 2.5, almost 3-year period of time. He pulled out like a champ, and about 6 hours after the surgery started, I was sitting with him for a couple of hours watching Law and Order, and he's a completely different guy when he's doped up on pain meds. He's actually nice. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I really want to thank you all for keeping him in your prayers. It really did mean a lot to me, and it meant a lot to him. So thank you from both of us, and my mom as well. Today's first encounter. I'm a 28-year-old male with a family of 4 and a pretty decent job. The paranormal has followed me and my immediate family for the better of 2 decades. I grew up in a house that could rival the Conjuring house, but that's a different story for a different time. The first time I experienced a creature like this, I was taking a hike with my brother and my now wife down some trails behind our house. We were getting tired, but decided we'd go a bit further. That would prove to be a mistake. We made it to this dome-like area that we realized was completely constructed by woven trees. When we stepped inside, my then-girlfriend, now wife, said she wasn't coming in. When I tried to convince her, that's when my brother and I noticed how quiet it had gotten. I took a look around and I noticed what looked like a hand placed on the trunk of a nearby tree. It looked like what a raccoon hand would look like, only twice the size of what a human hand would look like, with long claws that looked like they could shred metal. I don't know where this courage came from, but I took 2 steps towards it, and to this day I wish I hadn't. Looking down at me was the most horrific sight I have ever witnessed. Upside down, as if it were crawling down the tree, was what I can only describe a werewolf looking me dead in the face. If it were to be standing upright, I would say it was at least 7 feet tall. Its fur, unlike any other Dogman encounter I had ever heard. It was clean, long, and black like silk. Its eyes were this fiery amber yellow and gold. With a stare that burned into my soul, it pulled its hand back and shimmied one shimmy backwards up the tree. At that moment, I was able to move again, and my brother, who was standing right behind me, looked at me in complete disbelief and terror. I told him to calmly walk backward, back up the trail, till we started hearing cracks of branches. We couldn't handle it anymore, and we took off out of there. The last time I ever saw this creature was when my brother and his girlfriend were riding in the back road smoking one night. And I know what people are going to say or think, but my brother's girlfriend does not smoke and was completely sober during this whole thing. She cannot even explain what we saw. As we turned onto this gravel pass, things got deathly quiet. No more than 30 seconds later, something the size of a grizzly bear ran across the road at breakneck speed. I saw it stop on the other side of the road, so we stopped to check it out, being in the safety of our car and all. What we saw is burned into our brains for the rest of our lives. At first, we thought we had hit it because its limbs were turning and popping, as if the bones were breaking. I gasped when it looked directly at us, ears perked up like a German shepherd's, eyes glowing this fiery orange with no source of light for its eyeshine. We were only 20 feet away from this thing, and I saw its mouth open, baring teeth at us with drool dripping from its mouth. At that point, I broke from my trance, screamed at my brother to floor it. He was just stuck staring at this thing, right as I thought it was going to try and come and make a meal out of us. My screams finally broke free to my brother, and he gunned it. I don't think it followed us, but I couldn't stop myself from looking out the rear view mirror the rest of the way home. We discussed what it could have been, Dogman, werewolf, we don't know. We couldn't really come to any conclusion. All we know is that it radiated fear and malice intent. Thank you for letting me share. Just be careful on the back roads of North Georgia because there is something definitely out there. Today's second encounter. This encounter is my uncle's encounter, who works as a trucker in the mountainous region of the Himalayas. I will share it in his perspective. After a tiring day from work, I went to the parking lot to park my truck. There wasn't much thought given to the parking lot by the authorities, so it lacked lights in many parts of it. At night it was super hard to navigate in the parking lot. At 12 a.m., I parked the truck and called my mate to see if there was any space left to sleep in the building. He said, "Well, yeah, but it's the room you hate because the small bed. It's the only room left. Want to come?" I said, "Nah, I'll sleep in the truck tonight." I went back to the truck in the parking lot and settled in the driver's seat and decided to sleep. Even though I was tired for some reason, I was unable to sleep. I never felt anything like this, the urge to stay awake all night. So I was on my phone scrolling through Instagram Reels and watching some videos on YouTube. I did this for almost 3 hours. I checked my phone for the time and it read 2:48. My eyes were watery from looking at the phone screen in the dark for so long, and by then I was kind of sleepy, so I decided to close my eyes and let sleep drift me away. After maybe 2 minutes, I was startled by this heavy thump, the heaviest thump I had ever heard in my life. It was so heavy and powerful that I felt it inside of my body like a bass drop of a song. It was so loud yet somewhat very silent, as if it was coming from very far away, still carrying that thumping power. I tried to make sense of it, and I came to the conclusion that maybe someone's stuff had fallen down while putting their truck up. I know it sounds weird, but it's the only thing that would make sense at the moment. So, I tried to fall asleep again. One more time I was trying to sleep, and after 30 seconds, I was startled by that same thump. I shot straight up out of the seat. Then it came again, the same thump, then another, and another. It didn't take me more than a second to realize that these thumps were actually footsteps of something enormous, something far bigger than I could imagine. It almost felt like I was hearing a dinosaur walk, Soon the footsteps sounded like they belonged to something that was with me in the parking lot. And not very soon after, I heard the truck's security alarm go on due to these footsteps. Then another alarm and another, perfectly synced with the footsteps, sounding closer and closer with every step. I was looking out the windshield with my eyes peeled, but still couldn't see anything. I dared to turn on the truck headlights, and as soon as they came on, whatever was standing in front of the truck flew straight up. I can only say this because I saw a silhouette of something enormous go up with lightning speed. All the dry leaves on the ground started to fly in every direction from the enormous gust of wind from this otherworldly creature created by these huge wings. I could hear this gusty sound of the wings flapping inside of my truck. After maybe 10 seconds, it landed to the left of my truck, but by that time, I was sure I was going to die. I grabbed my flashlight from this tiny locker I had in the dashboard of my truck and shined it in the direction of where I thought this creature was. By extreme luck or unluck, the light from my flashlight happened to land on the face of whatever this thing was. Chills went down my spine as I looked at this demonic creature. Its eyes reflected this bright red. Its face was human-like, and it was white as snow. It screeched and growled almost at the same time, creating this god-awful sound. It sounded like it was grinning at me, if that makes sense, showing me its extremely sharp yet small teeth. It didn't look like it had a nose. It almost felt like it was taunting me. I shifted my flashlight to its wings, and what I saw works as a nightmare fuel. Its wings didn't have fur. They were this bright red, and I could see every vein. You could literally see every vein distinctly. Then, for the final time, it walked away again, creating those heavy footsteps, causing every truck security alarm to go off. Soon the footsteps became almost inaudible. As soon as they did, I started my truck and got out of there, driving over 50 miles an hour on those hilly roads. I tried calling my friend, but my phone died in my face because of my super long binge of YouTube and Instagram. Still to this day, I feel like this thing did not belong on this world. The aura it occupied was so dark and negative, I could feel it. I thank God was on my side that day, so I am here sharing this experience. Thank you. Alright guys, so since we don't really talk about Filipino creatures too often, I have had a couple of experiences shared with me from two Filipino women. And I know some people who are familiar with a little bit of the Filipino folklore may be saying, oh, that's an aswang. Well, I'm going to share with you what an aswang is and why I don't believe it is an aswang and why I believe it is a different creature, which I will share momentarily. A aswang is a umbrella term for a very shape-shifting evil-like creature in Filipino lore, such as vampires, ghouls, or witches. Transforming human-beast hybrid. The aswang is subject to a wide variety of myths. It is well known throughout the Philippines. Spanish colonists noted that the aswang was the most feared among the creatures of the Philippines, even in the 16th century. Although no specific motive other than harming others, their behavior can be interpreted as inversion of traditional Filipino values. The aswang is especially popular in southern parts of Luzon, some parts of Mindanao, and supposedly the aswang hunts pregnant women and feeds off of the baby. Now, there is a different creature that I'm going to share with you right now. Meneningal, which this is kind of crazy because this is actually a police write-up. Police in the Philippines are working to ease the fears of residents in the cities where reports of a fearsome creature have been circulating. The strange incident began last Thursday evening in the community of Talisay when two girls reported seeing this bizarre creature perched on a house. According to witnesses, the creature had bat-like wings and was able to detach its body at its torso, which is a characteristic of this mythical creature known as the Meneningal in Filipino lore. The girls were shaken by this encounter and reported the sighting to the police. News of the sighting quickly spread, and soon the entire community was abuzz with the talk of the Meneningal. Several days after the initial sighting, reports emerged of another creature in a nearby town. This creature was described as having a human body, but the head that resembled a pig. The reports have added to the fears and concerns of the community, and local authorities began to take matters more seriously. In efforts to calm the residents, authorities held a press conference to address the issue. They promised to investigate the reports and urged residents to report any unusual sightings to the police. They also advised residents to refrain from sharing rumors and hearsay about the Meneningal, as it could cause unnecessary panic. Meanwhile, the two witnesses who reported the sighting of the Meneningal are said to be receiving counseling to help them deal with the trauma of their encounter. Local authorities have assured residents that they are taking the matter seriously and doing everything they can to ensure the safety of the community. Despite the rumors of the Meneningal continue to circulate, and many of the residents are still on edge, fearful of an encounter with this creature in the dead of night. Now, apparently, the Meneningal is very similar to the Aswang. So I was kind of wrong and right, if that makes any sense. The Meneningal is a mythical creature from the Philippine folklore, typically described as a female monster that can detach her body from her upper to lower, grow wings, and fly at night, usually preying on pregnant women and their unborn children. The lower half of the Meneningal is said to stay behind and is vulnerable to attack during this time. To prevent the Meneningal from reattaching, salt or ash should be spread on the lower half of its body, so the myth goes. The creature is also said to have an aversion to garlic and be vulnerable to sunlight, which can cause it to turn to ash. The legend of the Meneningal has been subject to many Filipino horror movies and is still quite popular in the Philippine culture. Sounds more like a vampire, but I don't know. So after careful looking over a rather extensive list of Philippine creatures, to me, it's the Meneningal or the Aswang. There is a ton of creatures in Filipino lore, though, and a lot of them really resemble vampire-like creatures, ghoul-like creatures, which is pretty similar to like our crawler. There's a creature called the Allen, which is said to have large wings and their fingers and toes are pointed backwards. I don't know. Just an absolute terrifying experience, though. So let's do this breakdown, though. I'm ready for the breakdown. I hope you guys are. All right, guys. So I was able to locate this photo. Actually, a subscriber was kind enough to send it in to me. Yesterday I had shared like the head part and the hand looking area. Now that is how the photo looks. Blurry and kind of just really scattered looking to me. So when I ended up cleaning it up, this photo right here, the original, I went in and cleaned everything up, and the contrast of the photo was so low that when I cleaned it up, I got an actual whole better version of this creature. So we'll look at this part first and what I want to talk about. The ears. The ears almost look see-through. And I will put, after this part of the video, I'll put both up so you can see a little better what I'm talking about. But they don't look attached. I know some people are going to be like, they looked attached to me, but they are so faint in here. They don't, and then this, it's doesn't physically match. I started to look at some shadows. Now, its AI is very, very good with creating shadows and creating real looking photos. There's a couple of AI programs that, will take, you type in Dogman or werewolf or wolfman, and it's going to take man and wolf and mix them. If you look at this, though, speaking of shadows, that, I know some people are going to be like, yeah, that looks like it belongs, but that almost looks more like a dog paw right here. That shadow does not go with that. It's too far off. If it was, it would be up here more and shorter. And then, like, maybe this shadow belongs. But you can see clearly these ears, they are faint. They are not the same. The human-like lips, the human-like nose. When I say human-like nose, wait until you see. You can see a better ear here. It's almost see-through. And it just, these don't belong. Its face that is computer generated. 100%. Look at these lips. It's got human lips, a human nose. This shadow, if that was a true shadow, it wouldn't go down like that. It would be kind of over more. And actually almost wouldn't even show up. But then, if we look at this shadow again, look how the arm is turned here. Once again, if it was this, it would be up here and it would kind of come like this and angle that way. Not like how it is right here. Another thing I want to look at. Look at this region. I don't know if you can see. This is a black and white photo. That red dot there is from me earlier. But that tree is greenish. There's a green hue to it. I mean, yes, it's a scary photo, but real? No. I would most certainly, I scrolled and did reverse searches and everything. And the guy who sent me the the quote original, he said, I did a reverse Google search and it pushed up the video game like werewolf picture. It pushed up like a jackal, hyena picture. You look at that. That looks like a hyena. I mean, AI can create some amazing things. And I know, and I'm not downing anyone who really believes this is real. I'm not. I'm just saying you have to be a skeptic when it comes to these pictures. 100% you have to be. I swear on everything. This face, I've seen this face somewhere. I don't know if it was from a movie, if it was from a video game, but I have seen that face. And to me, it's 100% fake. I don't know. I mean, yeah, if I saw that thing in the woods, I'd probably tinkle a little bit, but I might laugh. Because it's so stupid looking. Really bad AI generated picture. But I really, it's on the tip of, you ever see a photo and you're like, I've seen that photo. I've seen something similar. This right here is what I'm talking about. Just this portion of it. These lips and this nose area. It's right there. But anyway, I wanted to share it with you. I wanted to give you guys show you the whole photo. And also it's saying it's from a trail cam. Where's the video? There is no video. If it was trail cam legit, I mean, if it was from a trail cam, why can't we see the video? Why are we just seeing a photo? Just like the Amarillo zoo creature. Where's the video? Oh, wait. Because the zoo didn't want to share the video, but they shared the photo. And like I said yesterday, Amarillo, the zoo, was not, it was right after the lockdown. Business was bad. No money was coming in. That photo got, air quotes, leaked. Not really, because people were talking about it from the zoo. And their attendance skyrocketed. So, my opinion, 100% AI. Today's third encounter. I believe I saw something that resembles the Dogman or werewolf. Either way, I know I saw something looking out a window of a nearby abandoned house on my street. You see, we live on a small semi-rural street in Virginia. There's only about 4 houses on this street. We're the type of neighborhood that everyone knows everybody, and our neighbors are our relatives, so we all know each other. I live with my dad and my grandparents in a house at the very end of the street. My uncle lives closest to the top. We are very lucky to live in this house because we are the closest to the woods, and we've seen a lot of wild animals such as deer, turkey, rabbit, and occasionally a few bear. Unfortunately, I think that's what attracted this thing to our neighborhood. Or maybe it was because I own a lot of books and items that are associated with the occult. Yeah, I admit, not the best thing to own, especially being raised a Christian, but it was a guilty pleasure. Anyway, right next to my uncle's house is this old abandoned house. Now, the house used to belong to my great-grandparents, my grandfather's parents, but the house was long abandoned since they passed. This is where the creature appears. I first heard about this Dogman creature from my grandma, when she used to tell me stories about mysterious creatures and entities, much to the dismay of my dad. "Mom, stop filling her with nonsense. She's a kid. She'll get nightmares," he'd say. My grandmother always shot back that it's not nonsense, they're real. Yeah, that was my grandma. She and my grandfather grew up in rural Virginia back in the day, so it was not surprising that they had a few tales and encounters to share. My dad, however, didn't like them telling me scary stories, and he always worried that I'd start believing it. Some of the experiences I believed, but they didn't scare me like my dad thought they would. I remember one story in particular that still sends chills down my spine. This particular story was told by both my grandparents, and it was about a Native American curse. The story goes that a shaman possessed the power to transform into a werewolf-like creature, and he slaughtered many innocent people, not just in his tribe, but the neighboring tribes and European settlers too. My grandparents described this part to me in great detail. Eventually, his powers and black magic were discovered by the tribe, and he was banished. Soon, the tribe's warriors tracked him down and killed him while he was in a wolf state. Then, in his dying breath, he put a curse on the land and said that he would come back for their lives. My grandparents say that when his spirit is near, all the wildlife disappears and goes quiet. The presence of death itself can be felt in the air. And he can be seen as something of a half-man, half-wolf. I nervously laughed it off, saying there is no such thing as werewolves. But my grandfather leaned down and said, "It isn't a werewolf, it's something else, something evil." With me being 6 years old when I first heard this, it chilled me to my bones. But it definitely made me more cautious about being outside in the woods at dark. Now I'll stop boring you with the extra lengthy prologue and just get straight to the encounters. I remember the first encounter with that thing like it was yesterday. I was 12, and I was in a nearby field looking for deer tracks. I was in that field all afternoon, and I had already found a set of deer antlers. By the time I was almost to the end of the field, the sun had already set. I decided to finish up and come back in the morning. But first I wanted to show my uncle the deer antlers I had found. As I walked up the street, I noticed a strong stench of what can only be described as a mix of wet dog, dead bear rotting in the hot summer heat, and coyote piss. I ignored it and kept walking. When I was getting close to the abandoned house, something big in the window caught my eye. The odor was the strongest right here. And only then did I notice that all the sounds had stopped in the forest and gone completely silent. I felt this odd, indescribable chill go down my spine, and I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand straight up. Then I slowly turned my head, more slowly than ever before. When I saw what was in the window, I froze like a deer in the headlights, and I felt like I was having a heart attack. The thing in the window was bent down, allowing its ugly, deformed face to be seen from outside. Now, this thing was tall, otherwise it wouldn't be bent down looking at me. I couldn't see a lot of detail because it was getting dark, like I said, and there was little to no light. But what I could see was the silhouette of this large wolf-man-like abomination, and 2 glowing red eyes. Its front paws looked like huge raccoon hands, and they were resting on the windowsill. We stared at each other for what felt like an eternity. Then its lips curled back to form this sick malice smile. I was frozen, still gripping the deer antler. I was too afraid to move. I considered using the antlers to defend myself, but then I remembered just how big this thing was. I realized that this little buck antler was not going to be any good against this creature. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run back home to my dad and grandmother and grandfather, but I was paralyzed. Just then the creature moved toward the broken down door and stood on the threshold. Suddenly my uncle dashed to my side with his gun in holster. He screamed at me to get behind him, and he shot at it. It let this horrible, distorted, almost human-like scream out. My uncle kept shooting it, and it ran into the woods. There was a small moment of silence, and he turned to me and asked what I was doing outside after dark. I told him that I was looking for deer track and saw that thing looking at me through the window. He looked at me, not saying a word. Then he looked back down as if he was thinking. He looked at me and said in one serious tone, "Don't go out at night and stay out of the woods." After all that, he walked me back home. He also told me not to speak about it. I wasn't sure why he told me this, but never spoke about it since. After a couple years, the first encounter just turned into a repressed memory. I didn't think about it often, but when I did, I felt that same fear as if I was reliving it again. Now my second encounter is somewhat worse than the first. It was a few days after my 14th birthday, and it was dark. I tended to have the habit of staying up late, so this led me to staying up until 2 in the morning. On this particular night, at around 1:30, I was getting ready for bed when I heard this tap on the window. I turned toward the window, and the only thing I saw was nothing. I assumed maybe it was a bug that hit the window and resumed my bedtime ritual. Soon I turned the lights off and climbed into bed, but of course I couldn't sleep, so I started scrolling through YouTube, TikTok, and Tumblr. I know it's not the best thing to do when you're trying to sleep, but I didn't care. Just when I was about to click on another video, I heard the tapping noise again. Annoyed, I turned toward the window. Now the window I'm talking about is right in front of the foot of my bed. When I looked at that window, I saw a familiar yet eerie silhouette. At once I knew the thing was back. Once again, its paw/hands were resting on the bottom of my windowsill, just staring at me. Only this time, it had a small, dead animal in its toothy jaws. It had blood all over its muzzle. Still staring at me, it tilted its head back, opened its jaws to eat the animal. This thing swallowed it whole. I swear to God, I was panicking after watching it eat the animal. Fun fact about me, at the time I recently found out that I had severe anxiety, and I'm extremely prone to anxiety attacks. And unfortunately, this encounter and the trauma from my past encounter triggered a massive panic attack. If you've ever experienced a panic attack, you'll know what the symptoms are. They're similar to a heart attack: rapid heartbeat, sweating, heavy breathing, and dizziness. It feels like you're going to die, so there I was lying in bed while having a god-awful panic attack, and this wolf demon staring at me through the window. I gripped my chest. I felt my heart drumming in my chest. I tried to calm down and tried to control my breathing, but I was panicking. As I looked back at this wolf creature, it had blood covered on its paw. Then everything went black. I woke up and it was 10:30 in the morning. I shot right out of bed and reached for my baseball bat. Gripping it in my hands, there was nothing at the window. All that remained of that creature from that night was the bloody paw/handprints. This was the last close encounter with this wolf-like creature, but I will see glimpses of it every once in a while in the tree line. I still have many questions. Like, what is this creature? Where did it come from? Why didn't it break into my house when it was fully capable of doing so? And why didn't it kill me when it had a chance? All I know is this creature is not normal, and ever since that last encounter with this thing, my little chihuahua goes crazy at night. And there hasn't been any deer or small animals around. It knows where I live, and I haven't been able to sleep at night since. Thank you for letting me share. Tonight's final encounter. Wyoming is the least populated state in the United States, but nonetheless, one of the most beautiful and dramatic landscapes, with rolling hills and sagebrush to thick forests with mountains, rivers, and streams. That's where I call home. I grew up on my family's ranch just outside of Cody. My favorite hobby is fly fishing. Nothing is more exhilarating than watching your fly get swallowed by a trout. Wyoming, in fact, is world-class and known for fly fishing. My favorite river to fish is the Snake River. It is a little bit of a drive to get to my favorite spot, but it's worth it. This terrifying experience happened back in 2013. I was 19 at the time. It was late summer, July to be exact, at around 3 in the afternoon. Trust me, I remember the incident well. To get to my spot, you have to take a dirt road 3 miles in. And I get to this little pull-off park and walk half a mile through the woods. To be honest, I have no clue how my dad found this spot, but let me tell you, it's loaded with rainbow. You come out of the woods onto the shore, and there's the river. It's about 30 feet wide, and on the far side is the fastest moving water. There are many slow and deep pools toward my side that are perfect for fishing. For those of you who are new to fishing, the slower moving ponds are where the fish like to hang out because they are lazy and basically wait for food from upstream to drift downstream for an easy meal. Anyway, since it was 3 in the afternoon and pretty warm outside still, I didn't put my waders on and just walked right into the nice cool water, casting out. I had my fishing glasses on so that the glare wasn't bad off the water. Here's where things get real crazy. I'd been fishing this strip of river for maybe 45 minutes when I cast again, and all of a sudden I hear a tree fall on the other side of the river. It scared the crap out of me, to be honest, because I was so focused on the river. The river is not loud because this section of water is not moving that fast, keep in mind. I looked in the direction of the crash and saw a jet black haired animal slowly walking down to the river. At first glance, I thought it was a black bear, but upon further inspection, I realized this was no bear, but instead a large black dog. Another thought came to mind, as I thought, maybe it's a Yellowstone black wolf, but I again ruled that out because of its size. It was far too big. Then it really came into view, and my mind went blank. It came out of those trees onto the far bank and just stopped staring at me. It had the most beautiful yet terrifying ember-colored eyes just staring at me. It had this wolf-like head with sharp teeth. It was very well built and defined through its fur. It had skinnier legs, but they were dog legs and still defined. Its arms were lanky and its hands ended in sharp claws. That was the scariest part. I even remember taking my glasses off and rubbing my eyes to see if this thing was real. Craziest part is that it walked and just sat patiently on that opposite bank like a dog would, watching me curiously. I was so astonished and confused that I forgot about my line in the water. Then its ears perked up as this giant trout took my fly with a splash. It looked at me, then the line, then at me again, then the line, as if it was waiting for me to do something. I don't know why I didn't run. I don't know why I didn't feel threatened at that point. But this creature just sat there watching me curiously. It didn't mean me any harm. I quickly reeled in the fish. It was the world record time, no doubt. Grabbed the fish, unhooked the fly. I was about ready to release it when this Dogman creature growled this deep guttural growl words cannot describe. I froze as I saw this thing stand on two legs and start to wade through the water toward me like a human would. I started to quickly move to my side of the shore, and when I did, a short but loud grunt as it pointed with its claw at the fish in my hand. There were so many thoughts going through my head that I quickly ran out of the water and onto the shore and dropped the fish on the ground and started backing away toward the forest with my hands up. I even remember saying, "It's all yours," like 4 times. This creature crossed the river and went to my now flopping fish. As it picked it up with one hand, it looked at me like, "Really, dude? You got my food dirty?" It then put its claw through the fish's gill and out its mouth just like a human would. It then went back into the river with the fish now hooked in its claws. The Dogman put the fish back in the water and moved it back and forth, almost washing it off. It then put it in its mouth and got back onto the fours, crossing the river again. It looked back at me one more time, taking the fish out of its mouth and giving it this little wiggle, taunting me, and then running into the woods. I sprinted to my truck, threw the gear in, and sped home. I got pulled over, unfortunately, and told the officer everything. He let me go with a warning, seeing that I was in a panic state. I told my family, and they were astonished, but they ultimately believed me. This hands down has been the craziest, most unnatural thing that has ever happened to me. I still go fly fishing to this day, but I have never and will never go back to that spot again. Just remember that some things in this world are unnatural, and you never know what may happen. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed today's upload as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. When I broke that photo down, I was not trying to offend anybody or call anybody out. If you guys believe that is a real photo, that's your opinion. I was just sharing my opinion on it. And if I did offend anyone, that's the biggest reason why I don't share my opinion. Because in my eyes, you guys and your opinions are what matters, But I find the whole kind of background story of this thing ridiculous. On top of it, looks completely AI generated to me. But, like I said, where's the friggin' video? You say there's a trail cam, video. Show us the video. Don't show us this thing just staring at us. I mean, to be quite frank, if this goddamn thing was running in a video, I would be more apt to believe that then than now. You know what I mean? Like, this thing looks like the freaking cast of Cats, for god darn sake. Anyway, guys, thank you for keeping my dad in your prayers. It really does mean the world to me that you guys did that, and to him. He's old school. He couldn't understand. He's like, why they got me in their prayers? They don't know me. I said, Dad, that's just the kind of community we got on my channel. You guys are awesome. You guys are what continues to make this channel grow and go, and what makes it so special. The amount of respect and kindness you guys have for each other is it's unmeasurable. It's just, wow. Guys, stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, our pets, our family, and friends. These creatures are real. They're out there and they are dangerous. With that being said, stay safe and God bless.